All right, everybody, welcome back to Horn Takes. We had a nice little holiday break. I hope everybody had a good Christmas. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays, whatever you guys celebrate. I hope it was a good one. Got a lot of cover today, so we're going to get right into it. Hudson Carr has found his new destination. He's going to Purdue. I think that's an interesting landing spot for him. I think a lot of people thought that he was going to end up at Notre Dame. Purdue, he's going to get a great education at Purdue. He's already got a great education at the University of Texas. I didn't hear a whole lot about this, sort of recruitment. I know there was a lot of schools interested. I think Card is a really good talent. I just think he doesn't really fit in with what Steve Sarkisian wants to do. Steve Sarkisian doesn't want his guys running around, and that's a big piece of Card's game. So anyway, I think congratulations to him. He's going to have 2 degrees from 2 really good schools. And Drew Brees is on the staff there at Purdue in some capacity. I don't know too much about it, but that can't be a bad thing to go learn from Drew Brees, right? Texas basketball. Marcus Carr had a historic night last night. He tied a school record with 10 3-pointers, scored 41 points in the game. He could have easily scored more. They really tuned him down in the second half, which is fine. A lot of other guys got opportunities to score, and they did. He's the first guy to score over 40 points since 1996 for the University of Texas. When that guy gets hot, he is hot, and he makes the whole team better. I think last year, Carr was kind of the guy in the backcourt, and I don't think he responded very well to that. He couldn't carry the team. Now what you're seeing this year is with a much better, much deeper backcourt, and Texas's backcourt is elite. Absolutely elite. If Arterio Morris can get a little more consistent, they're going to be tough. They're going to have 4 guys that can come. I mean, they've got 4 starters basically at the guard positions. But this year he doesn't have all that pressure, and he's just going off. He's got 4 straight games of 17 points or more. Big win last night, point-wise. Not a big opponent. Texas A&M Commerce. I believe that was their first. I think it's their first year in D1, and it's the first time they've played a ranked team in D1. They've got some talent. They got a couple of guys that can really get to the basket and score. The game was pretty close early on, and then Carr just went on a freaking run towards the end of the first half. Guy had 33 points at halftime. Nuts. Anyway, Texas starts Big 12 play this weekend on the road against OU. Then they come back home. They got Kansas State. Then they go back on the road again for Oklahoma State. The Oklahoma teams aren't that good this year in basketball. All right, let's get into this Alamo Bowl. Number 12, Washington versus number 20, Texas. Texas is a 3.5-point favorite. I saw something on the internet the other day that like 72% of the bets have come in on Washington and 94% of the money is on Washington. And that doesn't surprise me at all. Texas has been a favorite all year long in every single game except for one. Texas is kind of limping into this game. They're missing DeMario Overshone. Obviously, Bijan Robinson is not playing. Roshan Johnson is not playing. So they're 2 starting running backs and then a pretty good linebacker in DeMario Overshone opting out. To me, this game really comes down to the Washington passing attack versus the Texas. Actually, it comes down to a couple things. The first one is Washington's passing attack against Texas's pass defense. Washington leads the nation with 376 yards per game through the air. Texas is 90th in passing defense at 239 yards per game. Texas's defense has looked better late in the season against the pass, but I'm not sure that's not fool's gold. I worry about this game. I haven't seen Washington play a single game, so I don't know. Just looking at the stats, I mean, they've got 500 attempts, 4,300 yards for this Penix guy. It almost sounds like air raid. Texas hasn't done a very good job against those types of offenses this year. I would say Texas needs to lean on their rushing game. They're number 27th in the country with 200 yards per game on the ground. Washington's got a pretty decent run defense. I don't know. Again, I haven't seen them play. I wonder if that's not a product of just the Pac-12 and the offense in the Pac-12 being pretty pass centric. I don't know. I think Texas is going to definitely have to be able to run the ball in this game. Keys to this game to me are pretty simple. Ewers needs to be a threat. We haven't seen Ewers be a threat in a long, long time. Really, the last two games of the season, at points, Steve Sarkisian completely took the game out of Quinn Ewers' hands. I think he's going to be able to I think he's going to have to be able to complete some passes and make some plays down the field. Hopefully these 15 practices they have gotten his mind right, gotten his mechanics right. I don't think he has to go win the game by himself, but he's definitely going to have to be somewhat efficient. Kansas State efficient. Obviously, you're losing your top two rushers, so the remaining Texas backs, they've got big shoes to fill. But they've got good players. Keelan Robinson's a experienced guy, transfer from Alabama a couple years ago. He's played a lot of different roles at Texas. He's been more of a slot guy, jet motion guy this year, but he has lined up in the backfield. He was recruited to Alabama, so he's got to be one of the best running backs in his recruiting class. Talented kid. And then you got Jonathan Brooks, who in very limited action this year has done really well. He went for 100 against KU in the second half. He had a couple scores against Oklahoma. And those are really the only two games he's had any significant carries. And I say significant, he didn't have a lot in those two games, but he was able to break off some pretty big runs in both of those games. And then you got Jaden Blues, a freshman. He's a redshirt, I believe, and this game won't count towards that with the new NCAA rule, so that's good. So they've got three guys there that I feel like, they can come in and carry the load. They're obviously not Roschon Johnson. They're obviously not Bijan Robinson, but they might be. They're young. We don't really know what those guys have. We haven't seen them on a consistent enough basis. So those guys are going to have to be able to pick it up and get some yards on the ground. A lot of that's the offensive line. Can the offensive line get push? Can they make some holes for these guys? I think they can. I think Texas is going to have to disrupt Penix. The guy's got 4,300 yards passing, 500 attempts, 29 touchdowns versus, I think, 3 interceptions. So he's really efficient, accurate. Texas got to find a way to disrupt his timing, get him scrambling around. I think he's a pretty decent runner too. So be a big test for Texas's defense. I mean, a lot of people have been talking all season about how it's much improved, and I think it is. I still think there's a long way to go. And this leads me to my next one. They got to get off the field on third down. They have not been very good at getting off the field on critical downs on defensive series, whether it's third down or fourth down. And they've given up some monster plays this year through the air on third and long, fourth and medium. PK's got to figure out a way to get those guys off the field. They can do that and turn the ball over to Ewers. Ewers can have I mean, he doesn't have to be great. He just has to be efficient. When you talk about guys like that, I'm talking like Stetson Bennett, talking like Greg McElroy. That's all he has to be. He doesn't have to win it by himself. For me, I'm looking at predicting this game. I think, again, Texas is going to need to they're going to need to grind this game out on the ground. They don't want to have a lot of 3-and-outs themselves. They want to be able to sustain drives, shorten the game, keep the ball out of Penix's hand. I think a shootout favors Washington. I absolutely do not think Quinn Ewers is ready to duel with a really good quarterback in a shootout type situation. All that being said, I think Penix is going to have a big game. I don't think Texas is going to be able to really slow him down. So I think he'll have a big game, and I think Texas is going to lose a close one, 42-38. All right, bowl games. There's a lot of bowl. We're finally into like some actual good bowl games. I mean, we've been playing bowl games for, it seems like 2 weeks now, and there hasn't even really been a decent bowl game to watch. Watch that guaranteed rate bowl last night. This goes back to the stupid ass names they got on bowl games now. Kicked off at 9:25 Central Time. If you're on the East Coast, I doubt you saw this game. Wisconsin and Oklahoma State. It was a pretty trashy looking game, man. A lot of mistakes. Really poor QB play on Oklahoma State side. Rangel, he's a freshman. He's a new guy. He missed some throws. He threw some passes. I was like, what in the world? Who is this guy throwing the ball to? But it ended. I thought Whiskey was gonna just like absolutely steamroll him about midway through the first quarter. And Oklahoma State, give them credit, man. They came back and made it a game. They had a chance. Rangel threw not a great ball on a deep pass, and Wisconsin sealed the deal. But bowl games in general, there's tons of opt-outs, tons of portal stuff going on. I don't even know who all is playing in all these games. So I'm just going to kind of run down through some of these games and give you guys my thoughts on some of these games. Cheez-It Bowl, number 13 FSU versus OU. I don't think there's a whole lot to say here. I think FSU wins this game big. I don't think OU's ready. OU signed a really good recruiting class this round in 2023. But this OU team is not ready to compete against a team like FSU. I think FSU wins this one by a couple scores. Holiday Bowl, Oregon versus North Carolina. This is like a, on paper, kind of interesting matchup. Drake May, obviously a really good player. But I think Bo Nix has a better supporting cast. I think Oregon's going to win this game pretty big. North Carolina just has no defense. And that's bad if you're playing Bo Nix in Oregon. Texas Bowl down in Houston. Got Texas Tech versus Ole Miss. I think the Ole Miss rushing attack is just going to be way too much for Texas Tech. I think Tech will score. I think it'll be a somewhat close game, but I think Ole Miss is going to win this game. A lot of rushing yards. I wouldn't be surprised if Ole Miss goes close to 300 on the ground. Gator Bowl, number 19 South Carolina versus number 21 ND. This one's kind of tough for me. South Carolina has been playing lights out the last few games. Spencer Rattler's been really good. I just feel like it's time for that South Carolina run to end. And I think Notre Dame's going to do it. I think Notre Dame wins a close one against South Carolina in the Gator Bowl. Orange Bowl, number 6, Tennessee, number 7, Clemson. This game's kind of cool because both the starting quarterbacks for these teams are gone. Hendon Hooker out with a torn ACL. DJ Uiagalelei, he's entered the transfer portal. So you got Klubnik. It's his first real big game as a starter. I don't know if he started a game this year. I know he's come in a couple of games. I don't think he started a game. So I think this is his first start as a Clemson Tiger. He looked pretty good in the couple games I saw him actually play. And I know they were trailing Syracuse. He came in and he didn't really do a lot with, they didn't put the game on his back or anything. They say he led a comeback. I mean, he really just handed the ball off a lot. But he was efficient. He was okay. And he did pretty well in that game that they benched Uiagalelei in late in the season. I don't really if we had both starting quarterbacks, I'd say Hendon Hooker and Tennessee run away with this game. But Clemson, without Hendon Hooker, Tennessee is they're going to have to rely on the running game more, I think. And I kind of think they're going to get it done. I mean, I think Clemson's got a good defense, but I think Tennessee just has so many ways to attack you, and we've seen Clemson teams just not play well down the stretch. I think Tennessee gets it done in the Orange Bowl. Sugar Bowl, number 5 Bama versus number 9 Kansas State. I think it's really big in this game that there's no Bama opt-outs. The one question I would have about that is this: are they going to actually play the whole game? Was this a Nick Saban sort of conversation with Bryce Young to say, "Hey, man, I need you to come back. I need you to be with the team. I need your leadership for this game." But they end up not really playing that much. I don't know. I talked earlier when these bowl matchups kind of came out. Does Bama even want to be there? Bama's been in the playoffs like the last 6,000 years straight. Do they even want to go play an Orange Bowl against Kansas State? Maybe this was a Saban trick up the sleeve. Maybe Bryce Young goes through all the motions in practice. Maybe he starts the game. Maybe the plan is to get him off the field. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. I think either way, Saban's going to celebrate his near historic number 1 2023 class. They had their recruiting class this year. Wow. It's like 8 5-stars or something. There were 3 or 4 points away from Texas A&M's last year historic number 1 recruiting class. Anyway, I think Saban's going to celebrate that with a big win over K-State. I just think Bama's just got too many athletes. I don't know. We'll see. It wouldn't surprise me. I mean, if Bama's not ready to play, K-State can definitely win this game. I think Saban's going to have Bama ready to play. I think he's pissed he didn't make the playoff. I think that team is pissed they didn't make the playoff. Not that they deserve to make the playoff. I just think they're pissed at themselves. Cotton Bowl, number 10 USC versus number 16 Tulane. This is a cool game. Tulane's been off the radar all year, but they're an 11-win team. Jordan Addison is out for this game for USC, and I don't know. I haven't heard how healthy Caleb Williams is. That could be a big factor in this game, obviously. USC is not the same team without Caleb Williams at 100%. I think the Pac-12 championship game illustrated that perfectly. I mean, they were rolling on Utah until he got hurt. As soon as he got hurt and became human again, Utah was able to get to him on the pass rush. He wasn't able to scramble around and make those off off time plays that he makes all the time, and they couldn't do anything. So I think Caleb Williams obviously being healthy is super important for this game. And the other thing, we talked about Bama wanting to be there. Does USC want to be there? They were sitting there. All they had to do was win. All they had to do was win, and they were in the playoff. Didn't get it done. Do they want to be in the Cotton Bowl? Cotton Bowl used to be awesome. It's not as much anymore. In the end, I think USC is going to be too much for. I think Tulane's a good team. I've seen them. I've seen brief stints of their games this year, and they've got some players, but I think USC is just going to have too much for them. USC will win a close one. Rose Bowl, number 8 Utah versus number 11 Penn State. This game to me is kind of boring. I'm not excited about this game. And I honestly, I never really get all that excited about a Rose Bowl. And I think that's, part of that is just because I didn't grow up in Rose Bowl country. I'm sure the folks in the Midwest and the West Coast are chomping at the bit about this Rose Bowl. To me, it's just not that. I think Penn State's gonna get stomped in this game. There it is. Utah wins this game big. Playoffs. Get some playoffs this Saturday. First matchup's the Fiesta Bowl. We got number 2 Michigan, number 3 TCU. I said late in the season that TCU was going to lose the Big 12 championship game. And I also said if they get in the playoff, they're going to get rolled, and it doesn't matter who they play. Michigan to me is the best matchup they could have drawn out of the other, out of the 3 teams they could have played. I think Michigan needs to start fast in this game. You look at Michigan, they've had some really slow starts, and they end up leaning on people, and they get these big running plays late in the game. I say late, second half of the game. And they end up blowing people out. TCU is kind of the same way. They start slow, and then something happens in the second half. They start making plays. They're kind of like the comeback kids. So I think whoever can come out and start really fast in this game has a good chance to win the game. TCU is absolutely 100% going to load the box. That 3-3-5 defense. And this is something I think is interesting about this game is I don't think you see a lot of 3-3-5 in the Big Ten, if at all. And what makes this defense tough is you got these 3 high safety. It's very intimidating look for a quarterback. Everything looks like you should be able to run the ball easily. And you heard JJ McCarthy in the presser the other day say that if they stay in their 3-3-5, it's going to be smash mouth. It's going to be smash city, whatever he said, smash something, alluding to the fact that if they see that 3-3-5, they're just going to run it. The problem with that is, especially if you want to line up the way Michigan lines up, a lot of like pro style type offensive sets, multiple tight ends, you've got all these bodies around the line of scrimmage, and you don't know where they're coming from. You don't know where the run blitz is coming from. You don't know where the pass blitz is coming from. And again, you got these 3 high safeties. And for a quarterback, they drop back to pass and they see those 3 guys just sitting out there waiting. It's kind of intimidating. It's a different look, and it's not impossible to beat, obviously. It just is a different look. It's a look that guys aren't used to seeing. So it'll be interesting to see if Michigan can actually move those guys around in that 3-3-5. I think they probably can. I think another interesting factor of this game is you got Max Duggan that's like a 38-year senior at TCU. Actually, I don't even think he's a senior. I think he's a junior. I think he actually could have come back. That doesn't make him not a senior. With all the COVID and medical redshirt stuff, you can play football for there was some guy on the West Coast that has like 9 years of eligibility. Anyway, you got Max Duggan, super experienced, having a really great season. And then you got JJ McCarthy, who's talented, but he's young. He's a sophomore. Can he rise to the occasion? I thought he did against Ohio State. Can he do it again against TCU? I kind of think this will be a close game until late in the third. And I feel like Michigan's running game is just going to pull away. I think they'll start to pop off some of those big runs like they did against Ohio State. I think Michigan wins this game 31-20. Peach Bowl, number 1 Georgia, number 4 TOSU, the Ohio State University. Running game. Who can do it? I think Georgia does it better. I think Georgia's a more complete team. I think they'll be able to get pressure on CJ Stroud. They were able to do it against Hendon Hooker and just completely neutralize that Tennessee offense. I think they'll be able to do something similar to Ohio State. To me, if Ohio State tries to pin this game on CJ Stroud's shoulder, and I think CJ Stroud's a good quarterback, and they've got some talent. He's got some weapons. But if they try to pin the game on his shoulders, they're going to get beat bad. I just think Georgia is a more complete team. I think Georgia's going to win this game big, 41-23. Georgia has struggled with a lot of teams this year that they probably should have blown out, but they've absolutely smashed most of the team, all the teams. Anytime there was like a doubt, you got to play Tennessee, you got to play LSU, you got to play Oregon, the beginning of the season. Anytime there's been like this big hype for a game, Georgia showed up in big way and blew their opponent out. So I don't expect to see anything different. I think Georgia is the clear favorite to win it all. That doesn't mean they will. I just feel like they're that team. Real quick, Colorado recruiting update. I told you guys I would follow this. I've had obviously a lot of run-ins with the Prime Colt. As of last night late, they still had the 43rd ranked recruiting class for high school with 18 commits, 3 4-stars in that signed class. The transfer class is ranked number 3, which that brings their overall up to 22. But they have 32 commits in this class. So in that transfer class, there's 2 4-stars. Shadur is his son, the quarterback, is one of those guys. And then you got the 5-star Travis Hunter out of Jackson State that followed him over to Colorado. That's, to me, you're looking at these classes and these rankings, and he's got the room to do it. So it's going to get bigger. I think between now and February, there's going to be more signings. I think he's going to get more kids. But it's really just a lot of numbers. There's not a lot of difference makers to me in this class. Travis Hunter, I haven't seen his son play that much, but I think he's a 4-star type guy. So I'm assuming he's pretty good. And maybe that running back out of Kansas, and then they got a couple of wide receivers, a lot of skill guys, but there's not a lot of defensive line, offensive line, impact type guys. And I think when you get into Power 5 football, that's what you got to have to win at a high level, which is what the Deion Colt thinks he will do and what he obviously wants to do. Again, it's just not a, from a talent perspective, the class, again, huge numbers. It's going to bolster that ranking, bolster those ranking numbers. There's just not a lot of talent there. 2024 is the year we should watch. That's the one, in fairness to Deion, he's been there for maybe a month. Not even a month. So it'll be interesting to see if folks like me that say, Deion's now in a bigger game against bigger fish than he was when he was at Jackson State, he's not going to be able to recruit like he did there at Colorado. Or is the Deion Colt right? Does he have a lot of influence? And do we start to see him winning battles against Alabama, Georgia, Florida State, Oklahoma, Texas, USC. We all have our opinions. We'll just have to sit back and watch and see who's right. Some exciting news for me. We got a new studio coming in on 2023. We're setting it up right now. Be a little different look than what we've got today. Should start seeing that in the next couple weeks. I'm gonna start doing some live streaming on YouTube. I've been looking at the different the live streaming softwares, and they're pretty powerful. So I think I'm going to kind of transition, more away from TikTok, more onto YouTube with the shorts, obviously the videos of the podcast, a lot of live streaming. Hopefully, I'm going to try to do some live streaming tonight and tomorrow night for the football games. We'll see. See what happens. But that's it. We're going to get a new studio in 2023. It's going to be a cool look. Look for the live stream stuff. Look for YouTube stuff. You can still subscribe to the podcast. You can tell your friends about the podcast. Please, if you like the podcast, you like the YouTube channel, go ahead and subscribe. It'll help me out. Won't cost you anything. Find me on TikTok for now. Horn Takes Podcast. Same name over on YouTube. You can email me at horntakespodcast@gmail.com. Give me all your comments, questions, concerns, criticisms. I love them all. Hook them.